Staff ready? All right. Good evening. Welcome to the regular City Council meeting of the City of Palos Verdes Estates. Today's February 10th, 2026. The time is 6:31 p.m. Calling this meeting to order, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the city clerk please provide for a roll call, including the remote attendee, and any comments from the city attorney?
Mr. City Attorney, did you have the announcement prior?
Sure. Tonight, Councilmember McGowan will be appearing remotely pursuant to under the new provisions of SB 707, specifically Government Code Section 54953C, which allows his remote participation. He's recovering from multiple back surgeries and will be appearing remotely. Councilmember McGowan, please ensure that you would keep your audio and video on throughout, and please identify if there's anyone over the age of 18 or older that is in the room with you now or at any time in the future. Is there anyone there now?
There is no one here now, or will be.
Thank you.
Councilmember McGowan?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Here.
Councilmember Lozey?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lazaro?
Here.
And Mayor Kemps?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much for everyone's collaboration. On to approval of the agenda. Do any council members have any items they wish to pull from the agenda and or reorder of anything? And or may I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second?
Sure.
Motion, any change?
No.
Moved Mayor Pro Tem, what's your name? Lazaro. It's a little slow this evening. Second, Councilmember Quinn. I think we need voice votes all night long, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, voice vote, please.
Councilmember McGowan?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Lozey?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lazaro?
Aye.
And Mayor Kemps?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, a few announcements and comments. On January 30th, 2026 at La Venta Inn, I was grateful to have the opportunity to celebrate 70 years strong and to hear the state of the chamber with the Palos Verdes Peninsula Chamber of Commerce. I was also welcomed and asked to swear in their new board of directors for 2026 and did so. The event was capped off with a tribute to Eileen Hupp. For those that don't know her, Eileen was a longtime leader, advocate, and friend who passed away on Christmas Day, 2025. She was a huge community volunteer, led the chamber. She was an amazing woman, a mentor to many, and this was an earth-shattering loss, which reverberated throughout the peninsula. We'll all miss her terribly, and that was a rough one. In better news, Palos Verdes Little League and Lanada Bay Little League are each hosting their opening day festivities on Saturday, February 21st. PV Little League will celebrate with a parade that will start at 9:30 and circle around the Valmani community, returning promptly at 10 with teams gathering on the field. Opening day begins at 10:15 with the Palos Verdes Little League President's Welcome, National Anthem, and first pitch. 10:30 begins carnival games, rides, and face painting through 2 p.m. The first majors game, which is not to be missed, is at 11:30, and game 2 is 1:45 p.m. The league is also conducting a silent auction, which closes at 1:30 p.m. Lanada Bay Little League starts the day off at 8 a.m. Somehow they got the early slot, with a PVE Police Department-led parade from PV High School up Yarmouth through the center of Lanada Bay and across Palos Verdes Drive west to their fields. They'll have a barbershop quartet singing the national anthem, followed by their Challenger Division game at 9:30. Before the Major Division game, a flyover of World War II fighter squadron will commence at 10:30. That sounds fun. Somebody videoing that? Baseball games will be played all day at the fields, along with games for the entire family, including miniature golf and a rock wall. So, pleased to come to one or both leagues, show your support for our kids, and enjoy youth baseball. I missed at the beginning of this mentioning, I think everyone sees that George is facilitating and contributing tonight. Carrie Coleman did survive his review that was on the agenda last week, and
Yeah, that's a little suspect.
and in fact is very well in PVE, but not so well at home recovering from an illness tonight, and so we miss him. Just a reminder that Monday, February 16th is President's Day, and City Hall will be closed. Next is a quick update on an item from our last council meeting. We voted unanimously, and as directed, I sent a letter to the County Board of Supervisors opposing consideration of a half-cent sales tax ballot measure on the June ballot. Coincidentally, I watched the Board of Supervisors meeting this afternoon, and despite recognition that numerous cities and businesses are vehemently opposed, clearly identifying both consumer affordability and the risk of losing business to neighboring Orange County, the board, including our own representative Janice Hahn, voted 4-1 in favor to place this measure on the June ballot.
Who's the one?
Take a guess.
Oh, Catherine?
Yeah. Correct. Anyway, sales tax is regressive. A half-cent increase will send even more business outside of the county. It's going to further affect affordability. And despite health services funding being cut at the federal level, the state legislature and governor have said and done nothing, which in fact the supervisors noted in the meeting. I thought that was interesting. This measure would unreasonably burden Los Angeles County residents and businesses with additional sales taxes that further affect affordability and the support of business in an environment that's already stressed. My opinion only, huge policy mistake. Anyway, despite no support for cities and no local control of funding, I guess the voters will decide. And that's it for the political statement. And finally, another gem in the series from my favorite social media poster, Ferris, Texas City Manager, Dr. Brooks Williams. Scroll any city or community, Facebook page or neighborhood group, and you would think every community in America is circling the drain. Everywhere you look, there are villains and heroes, bad guys and good guys, conspiracy and betrayal, people declaring the place they live to be broken beyond repair. You can jump from a small town in Texas to a suburb in Ohio to a city on the coast, maybe this one, and the script barely changes. Different names, the same drama, the same certainty, the same cheap storyline. It says something about us that we're willing to live in a world where grown adults unload on people they have never broken bread with, about work they don't understand and a tone they would never use if they had to look that person in the eye. Not every opinion needs a microphone, and not every grievance deserves an audience. These are people who will not spend 10 minutes reading a budget, looking at a statute, or asking a real question, but will spend hours online lecturing everyone else about how government should run. Paying taxes gives you the right to speak. It does not magically turn every half-formed thought into insight. Citizenship is not measured by volume. If you're not willing to learn the facts, understand the trade-offs, or do even the basic homework, the responsible move is to recognize that you're out of your depth and resist the urge to play expert just because you've found a comment box. If this were only noise, we could roll our eyes and move on, but it's not. This constant stream of drama trains people to believe that everyone in public service is either an idiot, possible, or a villain, possible, that every mistake is corruption, and that every disagreement is proof of bad faith. Not pretending government's always right or always gets it right, it does not. We absolutely fail at times. There are real failures and real bad actors, but the armchair quarterback version of public service that lives online is a cartoon, and cartoons are a terrible way to run a community. Real work is complicated. Real decisions involve law, math, timing, staffing, and constraints that do not fit in a meme or in a screenshot or a single line from a budget meeting. So I keep coming back to this question. What does it say about us that we not only tolerate this culture, we feed it, share it, and cheer it on? We say we want better schools, better streets, safer neighborhoods, and more opportunity, then turn around and treat anyone who steps into public service as fair game for whatever frustration we're carrying from the rest of our lives. There is no ordinance for basic decency. At some point, the adults in the room have to decide that constant vitriol is not a hobby, it's a hazard, and start modeling something different. yours in a series of posts. All right. City managers report from the city manager that's not here.
Honorable Mayor Kemps and members of the City Council, George Gabriel, Deputy City Manager. Yes, in fact, my name is not Carrie tonight, and Carrie is at home, and we're all, from all city staff here, we're hoping that he gets some well-deserved rest and has a speedy recovery from his illness. But just wanted to pass this on to Luke, Chief Halinga, sorry, and allow him to do his report. But thank you for
Thanks for filling in.
the opportunity.
All right, thank you, George, and good evening, Mayor Kemps and council members and members of the community. For this update, I typically try to get the monthly stats to the city council by the second city council meeting of the month. I missed my deadline last month. I had some heavy staff reports that I presented on. So I do have them for December. So these are stats that ended in December of 2025. So this is the year-end stats, essentially, for 2025. So one that I was very proud of is in 2025, we reduced burglaries by 24%. And what is pretty astounding by that is we actually had a 44% decrease in 2024 compared to 2023. So we've compounded on a 44% decrease and dropped it an additional 24%, which was great. I really attribute it not just to the police department and our officers who, obviously have fast response times and are very proactive, but also to the responsiveness of the community when we give advice regarding, securing your homes, leaving lights on inside, having exterior lights, and the community has responded, and I believe that everyone is doing a collaborative effort at keeping their homes safe, and this has been a drastic drop, which is fantastic. Larceny, which is essentially theft, that was up about 13%. Stealing cars or grand theft auto was down 23%. Vandalism was down 51%. One astonishing number that we've talked about quite a bit last year was counterfeiting and forgery. That was up over 200%. We did attribute that to someone who worked at the post office who was convicted for some crimes. And that's kind of a recap of the crimes in 2025. In regards to arrest, we made a total of 237 arrests for the year. Some of the higher numbers was for assault, simple assault, which was 10. We arrested 9 people for burglary, 12 people for other theft-related crimes. We arrested 5 people for grand theft auto, 41 people for drug violations, 8 people for weapon violations, and 61 for DUI. There's some other ones in there, but those were kind of the higher numbers. Response times is always important to this community, and I'm proud to report that we ended the year at an average of 2 minutes and 58 seconds for emergency calls. Those are calls such as, they could be medical emergencies, it could be somebody breaking into someone's house, could be a traffic collision with injuries, things that you typically see the officers responding with lights and sirens to. The other type of call that we track, we call priority 2, which is not an emergency, but it is urgent. So that'd be similar to a suspicious person on your street or a traffic collision, but without injuries. The average for the year for those types of calls was 4 minutes and 21 seconds. For 911 answer times, we received nearly 2,500, so 2,500 911 calls downstairs in our dispatch center for 2025. 97% of the time, those calls were answered in 10 seconds or less, which is very impressive and shows a lot of hard work for our dispatchers. Kind of on the theme with dispatch, our dispatchers logged nearly 28,000 calls. So, or I should say computer-aided dispatch entries. So this includes when officers make traffic stops. It includes when somebody calls 911 for a medical rescue. It includes a 911 hang-up, which maybe an officer doesn't even respond. If we're able to determine over the phone, it's okay. But overall, they logged 28,000 calls into our system. 75% of those calls was proactive work by our staff. So it is showing a good number of incidents in which our officers are taking proactive action. In regards to traffic enforcement and collisions, we wrote 1,590 traffic cites for the year. We wrote 1,274 parking cites for the year. We reduced our non-injury traffic collisions by 21% and reduced our injury traffic collisions by 13%. And then we also track how many of these collisions involve bicyclists. And overall, we reduced the bicyclist-involved collisions by 30%. And that concludes my report. These are all available online for the public to look at. You can visit our website, and under the police tab, there's a reports. A police department says reports and statistics, and this report is available there. And that concludes my presentation.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for the good work, Deputy City Manager or Chief? Okay, great. On to communications from the public. John Williams, you're first in line.
Turn this on. Is it on?
We hear you.
Great. Mayor, council, staff, residents. My name is John Williams. I live in Monte Malaga. I have a few comments on the mayor's presentation to the Breakfast Club last month, which was repeated at the council. The background slides were all familiar, and there is nothing new to say about the problems. But there is no vision for the future because, as we all know, the city cannot advocate. That is unfortunate. The city painted itself into a corner, maybe too clever by half. It has been mentioned repeatedly that the education of the residents is the key to success. In that vein, the mayor commendably ventured to address the subject and updated the slide deck. However, the data do not justify the conclusion. Slide 5 supports an $8 million parcel tax, not the $17.5 million that appears elsewhere. We do have bigger problems, but this slide does not mention them. Another erroneous conclusion is found in slide 18. The desired staffing level of 63 full-time equivalents, seen in 2016-17, was actually an exception. It represented the maximum staffing level during the past 19 years. During those 19 years, the average staffing level has been 56.5. Finally, slide 26 is what? I don't know. I tried to reconcile those numbers with the financial forecast provided at the July 1st town hall. See my late submittal for details. The message is muddled, wishful thinking. What does our media consultant say? That's not rhetorical, but continuing, the heavy lifting was the responsibility of a council ad hoc appointed on January 15, 2025, supported by our two-person finance department. I suspect they were too busy on audit to contribute much to planning. Planning is an explicit responsibility of the Finance Advisory Committee. 5 experts. What do they say? They haven't been heard from since November 4th, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. John Cradell.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, City staff, and residents, my name is John Cradell, Palos Verdes Estates Neighborhood Watch Area Coordinator for Lanada Bay South. We have street meets. Get to know your neighbors and your Palos Verdes Estates Police Department. PVE Neighborhood Watch is starting signups for street meets. A street meet is an informal gathering of local neighbors to get to know each other and to hear what is going on in their neighborhood from their local police officers. These are short meetings that last an hour, and you have an opportunity for getting your questions answered about crime and prevention in your neighborhood. To sign up for a street meet, go to our website, pvenw.org. There's mail theft and check fraud. Mail theft and check fraud continue to be one of the most common crimes in the South Bay. Remember to mail letters inside a post office. It is recommended not to use U.S. postal mailboxes or clip mail to your front door. Use a gel pen or a pen that resists check washing. For other tips and information, consider attending the PV Library Series sponsored by Malaga Bank. They provide excellent and reliable information on how to best protect yourself from these crimes. For a link to the Malaga Bank educational series and other helpful tips, go to our website, pvenw.org. We have an annual membership drive. PVE Neighborhood Watch will be sending out its annual membership drive in a few days. Look for our personal letter and update on Neighborhood Watch activities. We encourage you to talk with your neighbors. Make sure they are members of PVE Neighborhood Watch. We leverage our email contacts to keep in touch with the residents and let them know about upcoming events and crime prevention tips. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Greg, I know you, and I'm going to try and get the last name said right.
Oh, it's impossible.
Diete?
It's like delirium tremors, the DTs.
Say it to me. Say it for me one more time.
DT, just a D and a T.
Okay.
You can ignore the E and the I, whatever sequence it comes. In Chicago, which I grew up for like about 30 years there, I'll be quick because my whole thing changed about a minute ago, or wait, a half hour ago, in that I used to use Brown, Jones, Miller to make a restaurant reservation. It was much quicker and worked. So, and I still do that. You know. Okay.
Go ahead.
I've spent a lot of time at Redondo Beach City Council meetings, and at the first of the year, I'd been at PV Estate City Council meetings, and a couple of things from the previous speaker and the police chief hit me, and that suggestion that you drop your payments at a post office, in a post office. I can personally say that in just the last month and a half at the Côte d'Azur Villas, which we are so thankful we are neighbors with Palos Verdes Estates, and after the police chief's report, that's been solidified. We couldn't be luckier, happier. Thank you. But we have a large opening in our slot for drop-off mail, and we had one check that was lost and one check that was deposited. These were all to plumbers, and it was forged, and plumbers were never paid. And so about 3 weeks ago, my wife said, hey, we better wake up and just take it right to the post office. And I'd heard years ago where people were fishing mail out of mailboxes, and this activity was taking place. Yeah, thank you. And I'm having a senior moment, but there was some, I appreciate the police chief's report, and a lot of things registered. Thank you very much. I'll get to, as neighbors, I lost my sidekick, John Luke Byrne, about 3 weeks ago. He and his wife moved back to France. So, and he got a very, very nice price for his home at Côte d'Azur Villas. But anyway, we were on a committee together for eucalyptus wildfire concern. And I had these little, I don't know, thank yous that people in our 4 buildings signed as a thank you to PV Estates for everything you've done to mitigate the fire danger with the Grove, in the Grove. And I know Mayor Kemp, when he was on council, he came out and met about 9 or 10 of us, along with the urban forester, Carl Moritz, and the
I'm gonna let you continue because of the intro on the police chief and all that. But let's, if you could, you have about a minute.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
yeah.
Gosh, my wife says I never shut up.
No problem.
Okay. I sent you this.
No,
I gave you
no comments.
a minute. The document I sent you was regarding 3 of the large eucalyptus that are within 8 to 12 feet from our property line that are on the Perry residence property line. And I inquired of the urban forester if anything could be done to mitigate that, I guess remove those. And I thought that was going to happen because of the Perry residence changes. And I heard at an architectural and a landscape meeting just an hour before this meeting that it's for sale, that apparently they are not going to go ahead with those plans, and anything regarding vegetation is up to a whole different scenario. If it's sold, but apparently the Coastal Commission and everything else has approved what was there, and maybe it'll be something like it, and maybe they'll be removed, and I thank you all so very much. A happy Valentine's Day. I can tell you this, the county fire department was just okay with the Chick-fil-A brownies. That was last month. Chick-fil-A say they're only good for 3 days. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
You weren't in session and we came up and we didn't know what to do. So we brought them to the guys at the...
They were probably happy.
I will say that typically in the city, when something goes through the planning process, through the planning commission, if there are any non-private trees that are on an actual public right-of-way or public area that belongs to the city, typically the applicant has to go to the Parkland Committee to deal with either trimming or removal of those trees. That's our process. But the first thing that would have to happen would be a new owner would have to go through the planning process if they wanted to change something first. That's typically how that works. On to the consent agenda, items 1 through 6. Approval of warrants, receive and file financial statements for the months ending November 30, 2025 and December 31, 2025. City Council meeting actions, continuing the emergency storm drain repair and erosion control work at 4425 Lucera Circle and the City Boundary Trail. Consideration of a letter to the Torrance City Council requesting authorization for Los Angeles County Fire Department emergency helicopter refueling operations at Torrance Airport, and City Council review of proposed 2026 PVTC capital improvements, likely with 2 recusals on 6. We'll get to that.
That's a receive and file, so I don't feel like I need to recuse.
Okay. City Attorney?
If you just need to identify it, you don't need to leave the room. You're recusing from a particular item.
Not recusing.
Which item is this?
Number 6 on consent. It's just a receive and file on the capital improvement plans. For the
It's actually asking for conceptual approval of the projects.
No, I thought it was a receive and file.
Split up.
Oh, interesting, because it says whatever. But it says receive and file, but providing approval is not receive and file.
Right. The marking is odd on that. Yeah.
All right, first question.
Well, anyway,
For a
sorry.
minimum of 1 through 5. For a minimum, no, I'm good, I'm here. For a minimum of 1 through 5, do any council members wish to pull anything from the consent agenda?
No. No.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
So for number 6, are we just changing it to action required, and then it's going to be approved in consent?
Number 6, it says a typo to say receive and file. It should say consent.
Okay, well then I guess I will.
That's a typo, our apologies.
Yes, yeah.
Should be action required.
Oh, no, David's here. So, okay.
Yeah,
You
so-
can
so-
use it for the record.
Right, so both Councilmember Lozey and Mayor Kemps would be recused from that item in a motion to approve,
Okay, so,
Because you're members of the club.
because we're members of the club.
oh, sorry, public.
Yep. Are there any public comments, because I don't have any up here, on any of the consent agenda items? Hearing that,
Okay, so I move.
trying to jump up and speak about it?
I know. I see the tennis club here, people are here. Okay, so I move that we approve consent agenda items 1 through 6 with Councilmember Lozey and Mayor Kemps recusing from item number 6.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion, Councilmember Lozey. Second, Councilmember McGowan. May we have a voice vote, please?
Councilmember McGowan.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Lozey.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lozaro.
Aye.
And Mayor Kemps.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That's it. Thank you for coming, guys. Appreciate all you do. On to item number 7, public hearing. Amendment and addition of municipal code sections chapters 856, 860, 864, and 12.24 related to fireworks, smoking, disorderly conduct, and unlawful camping to improve fire safety. We have a staff report and any city attorney guidance on the public hearing itself.
Thank you, Mayor Kemps, and again, good evening, council members and members of the community. Before you tonight will be a discussion on fire safety laws. As you'll recall, at the City Council meeting on November 12th, the council requested that staff review the municipal codes related to fire safety, including public camping, the closure of trails on red flag days, and penalties for violations such as smoking in public and possession or use of fireworks. The council directed staff to return with recommendations to improve public safety, provide additional preventative measures to protect the community from the risk of wildfires, and to improve the clarity and the efficiency of our municipal code. The draft ordinance before you tonight would amend multiple sections of the municipal code. The proposed amendments enhance the city's abilities to prevent wildfires rather than just react to them. Clear and enforceable standards reduce ambiguity for both the public and our enforcement personnel, and they enhance public safety. Collectively, these changes further the city's ability to protect life and property. Next slide. So these are the current firework municipal codes. You'll see that Chapter 8 only prohibits them on private property, and that Chapter 12 lacks a clear definition of public spaces. These violations are misdemeanors, and the arrest or the citation does require a direct observation by a police officer. And as we discussed at the November meeting, the district attorney's office is unlikely to be able to prosecute these violations without like direct physical evidence or direct possession, which is sometimes difficult to work through a field investigation. Next slide, please. So the proposed change gives, these are going to be kind of slow slides. I made the images large so you could easily read them. But the proposed change here, you'll see it, there's things that are strike through, and then there's some underlined ones. So the proposed change here is really meaning to give a good definition of a public place. I'll just pause for a minute to give everyone time to read it. And then if we,
Excuse me, is there a way that you can put that into a slideshow format? Because from my vantage point, it's still stuck on the first introductory slide.
What slide are you seeing, Councilmember McGowan? What's at the top?
The lead slide, fire safety laws, February 10. That's the only slide that's populating. Maybe it's because I'm zoomed in this fashion. I don't know.
Are you able to see the live stream?
I can see the small version of it up on top. Maybe if I click on that, that doesn't help. Well, continue to go ahead. I'll just listen to. I just can't read the slides.
Councilmember McGowan, you have a copy of attached.
It's in the agenda. Yes.
You have it. Okay. This is just going through the changes that are listed in the ordinance itself. So if you want to follow along on the attachment, it's just the same information.
Gotcha.
all right, next slide, please. So the law, you see the underlined section of 8.60.020. This is an addition. It would expressly prohibit fireworks in public places. And then below that, 8.60.030 prescribes a penalty in the amount of a $1,000 fine through an administrative citation. Next slide, please. And lastly, in regards to the amendments for fireworks, it strikes the repetitive section in Chapter 12. So there's just no need to be repetitive and have it in a separate chapter. Next slide. So this is the current municipal code bullet points for trail closures. There's 2 trails that have restricted access during the hours of darkness, plus a 50-yard buffer on the sides of the trail. We discussed how difficult it could be for officers to be measuring 50 yards of trail, and it creates a problem for practicality and enforcement. And there's no current prohibition during red flag days. There's also multiple undefined paths in the Via Tejon Trail area, which makes it difficult to enforce. Next slide. The proposed change here would add the word trail to section 12.24.040, and it would also give the city manager or their designee authority to close trails in the immediate interests of public health or safety. It specifies that this would include high fire danger, such as red flag days or fire weather watch. This also sets a fine at $1,000 for violation of the section that is can be issued through administrative citation. Next slide, please.
Oh, go back. Sorry. Who thought of this font? This is teeny weeny weeny.
I try to make the image.
Where is it?
It's under the attachment. The attachment.
But the attachment is the ordinance itself, right? But you're saying this is just
This
pulled
is
from the
just
ordinance?
copied.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
pull that up in a second.
Yes.
I just wanted to- that was one of my questions. I think. Sorry, one second. Fine, thank you.
All right, next slide. This is regarding smoking in public. So the current municipal code is really well written. It has a clear definition of what smoke means. It has a clear definition of what a public place is. What we were, you can go to the next slide. The only thing we were directed to change is the way in which we can enforce it. And for this section, what we recommend is a $500 fine per violation. And that would also be issued through an administrative citation. Last council meeting, we discussed signs also, and there are some signs in place at some trailheads, and we would recommend that we'll see how this section works as is, and as our officers work towards enforcement, we'll see if there's issues, and it will come back if we recommend adding additional signs.
And sorry, just one clarification here. So this would remain a misdemeanor, but it would change the available penalties to essentially include an administrative citation option?
So all of these violations are subject to be prosecuted either as a misdemeanor or as an administrative violation. And the additions here are to increase the fine for if you get an admin cite from the basic, I think it's 100 or 150 for the first offense, 200, 500, along those lines. This increases, it just specifies that there's a higher amount for a first violation.
Okay.
All of them are still subject to being prosecuted by either provision, depending on what the prosecutor chooses.
Okay.
Next slide. So this is a proposed addition to the municipal code. It has some very clear definitions of camp paraphernalia, encampment, and public property. And it makes it unlawful for people to camp in any public property, including but not limited to any street, sidewalk, trail, or park. So this is something that is new to the municipal code, or would be new, I should say. Do you want me to, would you like the slide up so you can read it, or should we move on?
I found it on a bigger font. Give up, the font's
I
getting
tried.
smaller with every
That's right, there's a lot of words here. All right, next slide, please. In addition to the camping prohibition, there is also proposed language to specify that property left in such areas may be removed in accordance with our procedures. And that concludes my presentation, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a few. Or you go
Go
first.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Thank you for that. With respect to fireworks, if the individual is captured on video, is that enough for a police officer to cite the individual?
Yes, as long as we work towards identification.
Pardon?
As long as we can work towards identification.
Okay.
Yes, that we could issue an administrative citation as long as we can. I think it's the preponderance of evidence is what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
You want to chime in, Trevor?
Yes, for an administrative citation.
And the second question is regarding camping. Does it also include cars and/or smaller campers that might be on the street?
Trevor?
That's a good one.
That's actually an interesting question.
That's a really good one.
So would a camper be camp paraphernalia?
I think we already have that, actually. Let me see if it's...
I don't think it's meant to.
Well, we certainly have a large vehicle limitation that we put in place, but Craig's question was actually correct and more
So
specific about smaller size.
There is already actually a section, I'll read it out regarding this specifically. It says it is unlawful for any person to use any public street or alley for the purpose of overnight sleeping or camping in a camper, motorhome, van, or other vehicle. For the purpose of the section, overnight means any portion of the hours between sunset and sunrise.
Any portion.
So I think that would cover if you're
But
sleeping
that's in a
car.
different spot?
Yeah,
That's already in the code. So
that's-
this is
But somewhere
correct.
Portion of that.
Thank you. That's all I had.
That's good.
Okay.
So, okay, so for, again, back to the fireworks, then the ordinance then would prohibit the use of fireworks on public and private property?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah,
And
previously,
then-
it was just specific to private property with, I think, Chapter 12 having a small section about public property.
Okay, so we were just beefing up the public property piece of that, but
Correct.
still prohibited on both types of property?
Correct.
Okay. And then when we close the trails, how will we notify people? Will we send, like the normal alerts will go out and say, hey, please be advised, this is a red flag, warning conditions exist, we close trails, please be mindful of smoking and blah, blah, blah. I mean, is that what you're picturing?
Yeah, for that, we're really working towards voluntary compliance. And if we need to enforce, of course, we have that option. But we would put this out as much as we can, through social media, through probably email blast, through South Bay Alerts.
South Bay Alerts,
We
that's what I
would
was
send this out as much as we could. We would also work towards signage, and we could even use police tape to rope or tape off areas and try to make this as clear as possible, because we're not, we really want to stop it from happening.
Right.
As opposed to, we're not trying to catch.
We're not trying to go up in there and figure out if someone's up in the trails when they shouldn't be. We want them to not go in. So RPV has something similar. And I think on red flag days, they do, I mean, I don't know if it's police tape or actually red tape, I'm not sure, but maybe their trailheads aren't as, they should probably have plenty of trailheads over there. I mean, I think they put tape across the trailhead. I understand that on our trails, not every single one is a perfectly defined trailhead, but I would think we want something like that, I would think.
Yeah, if the council.
And a big no smoking sign, so in case somebody steps over the red flag warning tape, they don't also fling a cigarette out there.
Yeah, if the council approves this, then, staff will come up with signage that will be posted. The purpose will be to inform the public of the closure as much as possible, and also the consequences for it that will not only help people not go there, but also aid in enforcement for people that are willfully violating it.
Okay, just seems like that. I think that's, of all of these things, all have a good place in what we're trying to accomplish, but the closing the trails, I think that makes a lot of sense for prevention, because I think your staff report talked about, this is about prevention, not trying to react, so anyway, okay. Last question, sorry. So I noticed in the camping section that all of the other sections had a fine, but camping did not. So if some of them increased the fine, some established a fine, but camping did not. Could you speak to that?
Go for it.
So that'll be subject to the same administrative citations, the standard provisions of that. I think the discussions with staff and the chief, people that are likely to be violating this, a $100 violation is probably going to have the same impact as a $1,000 violation on them. But it is subject to, it is prosecuted, and it says there in the ordinance, as a misdemeanor, and it can be also prosecuted as an administrative fine. Also, it just is not, staff's proposal is not to increase it beyond the standard amount for an administrative fine.
If I could just add to it, in regards to an enforcement posture, this isn't something that, like Councilmember Quinn asked, could we, send somebody an administrative citation if we caught them on video? Camping is not something that we typically catch people on video doing. It is going to be something that the officer sees occurring in their presence, so they can, either issue the citation or make a physical arrest, since it is a misdemeanor.
Okay, so I guess what I noticed is that every other section of the changes in the ordinance that you made specifically talk about the penalty except camping. So are you saying the camping is a $1,000 penalty?
No.
No. It states in the introduction, section 4, following amendments are made to the code. In addition, violations of these provisions shall be subject to the administrative fine provisions of the city's municipal code per section 1.50.030.
Yeah.
And such violations may also be prosecuted as a misdemeanor per section 1.16.010. So the only time that we include a separate penalty provision is if you're trying to change the amount of a fine for what is already. We have a self-contained section of our code that deals with administrative citations and with misdemeanors that makes violations of any provisions of our code subject to being prosecuted as a misdemeanor or as administrative citations. We don't need to list it in every single section. The only thing you need to do is if you're trying to depart from the standard provisions that apply to violations of every other part of our code.
There's a standard table, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I read it.
Which is technically also still available for some of these other items as well, right?
Yep.
There's some discretion at that point, yeah, okay.
Did you have more?
No, I didn't have any more questions.
David?
My questions on I think camping were already addressed.
Okay.
One more question, if I may?
Me too. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Lasers, are they incendiary devices, and are they covered in this ordinance?
I don't believe they are incendiary devices, and they are not covered by this ordinance.
Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
It's an interesting point, though. We can look into it. I hadn't thought about that.
Okay.
Although starting a fire is arson, and that's a state felony, so.
If someone's able to do that with a laser, then yeah. I don't know if a municipal code would stop someone from doing that, but it's definitely something we could look at. I'm sure there are lasers that will do it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be the standard laser that.
You can buy them on Amazon.
Oh, really?
Layers that starts a fire?
It's amazing. Or eBay or something, but they're out there.
Are they expensive?
No.
What about the old magnifying glass?
I've seen that then, too.
Back to a serious note, are there any coastal commission considerations that are necessary, and are they covered?
These are health and safety provisions that we're putting through here. These are health and safety provisions that we're putting here for the protection of the public, so I would say that these would be exempt from any requirement to get a coastal development permit. If we post signs in the coastal zone, that may require an additional permitting. That'll be dealt with as we look into what types of signs would be used.
And then, thank you. And then finally, how, I assume the answer is judgment call, but empowering the city manager, and in this case, the deputy or the chief, to make the decision to close trails, how do you, is it every red flag day? How do you go about that decision-making process?
Carrie?
Come on, that was a good one. That was a good one.
I believe that it should be during red flag days.
All
red flag.
Considering, I think Fire Chief Kane mentioned we had a total of 13 last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be for all 13 days.
Okay, but I'm asking the question because we're empowering you to make the choice, so.
Yeah, I would be for it. And, we can always listen, or we always do listen to resident feedback. And if there's something that can be adjusted, then we'll listen.
I think that there are some people that are very active that use the daylights out of these trails that would only want to have them closed if absolutely necessary, and so they'd probably be asking this question.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
And I believe there is an exception for personnel to use it, including volunteers. So if they would.
Oh, so the very active people that use the trail should therefore be, I got it.
Yeah. Put them to work, they can still use the trail.
I love it. Any public comment on this item? John? Got that?
I think all these restrictions are probably a good idea. My question is more a practical question. In my years in Palos Verdes, I remember most New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, and all day on 4th of July, random explosions going off in different directions. You certainly don't have enough staff to go after all of them. Is there some way to deal with that? What are you going to do?
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to enforce fireworks. I did spend one 4th of July in the city of Los Angeles, and it was absolutely out of control. Here, there's definitely lots of calls for fireworks, and our officers do work towards enforcement. And I know the fire department actually goes on patrol too, and tries to help with that effort. We work towards education, and we do have some success stories in enforcing fireworks, but it is difficult to do. It doesn't take, being a kid myself back in the day, it doesn't take too much to light one off and, go run in your house or go run somewhere else, and it does become difficult to prove. But we would encourage members of the public to report things, and we've actually had success through that. People making anonymous tips, and we go knock on doors and make sure that the parents know that there's at least an allegation that their child has been doing this, and sometimes that's enough to stop it. And we've had, I remember one case we did arrest somebody for recklessly starting a fire through fireworks, which was up in the Malaga Dunes area. So it's not easy, but it's something that we work towards.
Thank you. So we will close the public hearing officially. Any further comments from council before any motions?
Sure. I'll just say I'm very happy to see these amendments to our ordinances. I support them strongly. I think that, we're just over a year from the anniversary of the Palisades and Eaton fires, and, we had a couple dozen people lose their lives in those fires. We had tens of thousands of homes destroyed. They quite literally just about the most devastating day in the history of LA County's history. And so I think that anything that we can do to help protect our city, we have been told by the fire department and other experts that some of our conditions are slightly less at risk. The winds are a little bit less strong, and there's a little bit more humidity in the air and things like that. But, I think the reality is that on a really dry day with the wrong luck and a firework or a match or a cigarette or whatever, we could certainly have something similar. And so I think, again, there's no one fix to that problem. It requires a combination of prevention and preparedness and response. But I think that this gives our police department, our fire department more tools to help prevent. I want to commend Councilmember Quinn. I think that he helped push the idea for a number of these changes forward. I think it was a good team effort. and then the city attorney and the police chief, brought it across the finish line. And so, yeah, I'm glad we're doing this. And, we're lucky to live in a very safe city, but I think prevention, again, especially in light of what just happened not so long ago, it's a really important thing.
Well said. Others?
No further comments?
No.
David?
No, I fully support this effort, and I think it's, I was actually surprised that we don't have some of these ordinances already in place, and I think the teeing it up in this fashion is on point, and I fully support it.
So prior to a motion, would the city attorney like to read the title in full, et cetera, or how would you like that done?
If you want to move staff recommendation, that would be including the introduction on first reading of ordinance number 771, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palos Verdes Estates, California, amending Chapter 8.56, smoking prohibited, and Chapter 8.60, fireworks, of Title 8, Health and Safety, Sections 12.24.040, closure of grounds, and 12.24.100, disorderly conduct, of Chapter 12.24, parks, of Title 12, streets, sidewalks, and public places, and adding Chapter 8.64, unlawful camping, to the Palos Verdes Estates Municipal Code, and finding the same exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
So on that note, may I have a motion moving the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Lozey, second Councilmember Quinn. Voice vote, please.
Councilmember McGowan.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Lozey.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lazaro.
Aye.
And Mayor Kemps.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much for all of your work on this. On to item 8, fiscal year 2025 and 5-6, annual budget mid-year review. Staff report, please.
Hi, Mayor Kemps and members of the City Council. I'll go ahead and tee this up for Noah, but I just want to indicate that last year we brought the mid-year review. I looked it up right now, April 22nd, 2025. And I think one of the things that we've been stressing to the community and obviously the City Council is that we're making improvements. And I think tonight is one other indication of that improvement, that we're getting on track. And sorry to steal your thunder a little, Noah. I know you brought this up, but we're getting on track and we're getting a better cadence in terms of our financial reporting. And Noah's going to detail that out a little bit more through his PowerPoint presentation. So off to you, Noah.
Thanks for the introduction, George. You guys can hear me okay, I'm assuming?
Yep.
And let me go ahead and share the presentation. And if you're viewing remotely, you may need to pin this. I was watching the earlier presentation, and I pinned it to my the Palos Verdes Estates cam. But are we all ready to get going? Taking on a tour through mid-year.
Looks good.
Perfect. Okay, so what is the mid-year review? George did steal a little bit of my thunder, but we've been working tremendously hard with the city and the finance department to get caught up on the financial reporting, and part of that is providing a year-end close that's really close to mid-year. So this report's going to cover the mid-year check-in of the city's financials for the 25-26 fiscal year. It uses the results through December 31st, 2025, and compares them to the amended budget, and we then project what the activity is going to be for the year end. The intent of mid-year is not to reopen the budget, but rather to confirm whether the assumptions that we had when we did the budget back in, what would that period of time be, April through June of last year, if those assumptions were reasonable, see if there's any emerging trends, and finally, see if there's any recommended budget amendments that might be necessary. So when the budget was adopted, included a planned deficit of about $2 million. Since then, the council has adopted some budget amendments in order to keep the city running, and that has increased the deficit modestly. But overall, based on the projections, we're not expecting that deficit is going to change too much from where we are at this point. So I do want to highlight this because this actually plays really heavily into city management's hand. They have done an excellent job of working with the departments and controlling the spending based on the budget that we adopted last June with the city council. Overall, while there is still a deficit, the anticipated changes and the things that we are seeing overall are still somewhat manageable and within the city's control of the overall fund balance. And I do have some good news that I don't want to jump ahead to right now, but we also project out what the fund balance will look like at the end of the year. And it's actually a little bit better than what we thought it was going to be, and I'll talk about that. So, general fund revenue overview. Overall, we're not projecting a whole lot of changes. The city is predominantly funded by property tax, which doesn't have wild swings. The volatility is maybe some of neighboring cities would if they're highly sales tax dependent. Property tax and those special levies that are put on the property tax for your residents to pay, those won't change too much. So overall projections are looking slightly ahead of the budget that we adopted. And right now we have received about $9.5 million, which is about 38% of the budget, which is actually kind of right where we need to be with some minor tweaks overall. So as I said, property tax, biggest revenue source for the entire city, about 44.7% of total revenues. Right now, 43% of the property taxes that we budgeted for have been received. That is right in line with where we actually expect to be. So for those of you that don't know, property taxes aren't received every month. They're actually scheduled by the County of Los Angeles. So we got our first big property tax payment in December, and our next big one will be in April. So we're, again, right where we need to be. The transfers in on that report, they're actually representative of the PVE special tax that's put into a separate fund, and then as they're received, they're transferred into the general fund to offset public safety costs. We're projecting, it's going to be right out where we're going to need to be. And I do want to apologize. I have one typo on here. That bullet point for projected increase of $96,000, that's supposed to be up under property taxes. But overall, that increase is based off of HDL estimates that we got revisions for back in October. So as you see, not huge swings, but please excuse me on that bullet point error. For sales taxes and franchise taxes, sales tax is actually proceeded slightly ahead of the schedule. We're always a little bit behind because of the way sales tax comes in. We get advances and then we get the true up for the quarter. It was looking higher, but more recent projections show it coming in a little bit lower than we thought. So overall, we're kind of projecting this to be flat, maybe a modest gain, but for the intents of this report, it's roughly coming into where we thought it would be. Now, franchise tax, because of the distribution schedule, we get a really small payment on that side of the fiscal year, and the rest really comes in around Q4. So we don't have really any insights on where those are going to end up, although based off of actual history, we think it's going to be right where it's supposed to be. On concessions, we are again projecting it's going to be more or less where it's at. The concession revenues are coming in. We have about 4 months for the golf, tennis, beach, and athletic club, and they're right on track with where we thought they were going to be. If there are any major changes, we really get the next bite of the apple if we need it in May, but overall, this one's tracking where we thought it was going to be. License and permit, more or less the same. We're projecting it to be remaining at that $930,000. There's a little bit of it ups and downs if we looked at the detail. Some are higher than we expected, some are lower than expected, but overall, it's right where we think it should be over for the entire category. Now, charges for services was one that we're actually projecting a little bit lower. I'm going to pause though, and we're not going to suggest a budget amendment for this. The reason being is charges for services which are predominantly community development activity, we don't have a lot of control over them. We also know from experience that they're very volatile because we could see big influxes in the beginning of the year, or in this case, they're a little bit lower, but we could see a big influx in the later part of the year. So overall, we're projecting it down. It's something to be aware of, but we're not going to recommend any sort of budgetary change right now. It's just something that, as a finance department, we're keeping an eye on. And lastly, intergovernmental revenues on this slide is received in 2 installments. HDL projections are actually showing it slightly up, around $20,000. We will get that first remittance, though, in January and the second one in April. So we're expecting those to come right in line with what your great property tax consultants are predicting. All right, so general fund overview for expenditures. We again are projecting slightly higher at about 103% of the budget at mid-year. This is a little bit deceptive because it shows 53.4%, but we got to remember there's a lot of upfront payments that happen in July. The CalPERS UAL, insurance premiums that kind of throw this average off. But overall, we're expecting it to go slightly up. There has been one approved budget amendment in the budget, the amended budget that I presented in the report, so far about $150,000 for the trees, and that has been the only change since we've adopted the budget for the general fund specifically. So the big story you're going to hear me talk about with these expenditures is that salary, benefits, and overtime are overall projecting down. Now, we will see they're being slightly offset with contract services, and I'll use the example of the finance department. You're vacant a finance director, and I know there's an item on later for tonight, and you have LSL filling that role. So there's a little bit of a topsy-turvy between the categories. We are going to recommend a budget adjustment to basically make up for what's been realized so far, but projected savings for salaries and benefits overall is about $471,000. It's being partially offset by overtime. For example, with police, if you don't have the people, it doesn't mean you can't do your patrols and provide that public safety service, just means you have to bring in some overtime. And as I said before, there are some upfront costs in this category that kind of throw off the linear nature of salaries and benefits, which are paid every 2 weeks. But overall, these are pretty much accounted for. Now, as I mentioned, contract services is largely tracking to the budget, but there are areas that we expect them to go over. We're expecting to go over about $442,000. Now, one thing that I want to highlight in this is just because we project it going over does not mean it absolutely will. There are some contractual services that we will keep, going with the projections or going with what we think we're going to spend, but if the departments never get to actually spending that money, that will result in savings for the cities. But it's more of a prudent strategy to keep these on and project them as being spent, because those were the dollars that we have accounted for to provide certain services. But we just don't know. Timing is also an issue here of when those activities actually happen. Mostly we're expecting contract services and operations to be offset by salary savings. Now, there is one piece where, for capital outlay, there are some recorded items with no budget. We've been looking into those for finance. They were actually coded to that category, but looking at them, we know they shouldn't be there. So now we're also going to request a budget amendment for some legal settlements that were actually approved and were coded here. And there's another piece for stormwater costs that I'm working with George and the departments to figure out what are these and can they be funded by another funding source such as Measure W and taken out of the general fund. So for right now, we're going to recommend a budget amendment for the legal settlements that should be there, and we're going to look into the stormwater costs. If they can be moved elsewhere, we're going to move into those funding sources. Otherwise, we will absorb them into the overall picture of the general fund because they're pretty small overall, and that's totally reasonable to do. The last category here is transfers out, which is just always a funny one where we have a budget but no spending. Just know those all relate to capital projects, and those are all booked as part of the year-end close based off the actual spending activity. So I mentioned in the beginning that we had some good news regarding fund balance. So where we started the fiscal year is May through June. We're making our best guesses what's projected for the end of the fiscal year 2025. We thought it was going to be around $23.8 million. Actual results came in higher because of just various reasons, and we're at $24.9 million. So that's a $1.1 million improvement. With the current projected deficit, we're projecting ending fund balance to be $22.8 million. Now, we're still above what is the calculated minimum reserve of it's roughly $14 million, and we're projecting the reserve, which is the $8 million for the emergency contingency, plus unassigned fund balance, to be about 17. So we're still in a good spot overall. And lastly, just what are the recommended budget amendments? As I mentioned, we want to reallocate some salary savings for contractual services that actually have occurred. And we want to also, there was an item for police overhires at a meeting previously with a comment that based on the option that was chosen, staff would come back with those related budget amendments. It's a good time with mid-year being right here. We approved those now. And also the legal settlements that were approved. We want to get those into the budget because while those were authorized, they were not budgeted for. And lastly, I worked with Carrie and George on some tentative dates for the upcoming budget development. And we're looking at early March presenting a preliminary budget information. So basically, what do we know about the numbers right now? It's still very early on, but what do we know? We could talk about some direction from the City Council with the upcoming season and just kind of walk into budget more informed on direction staff should be going. We want to follow it up with 3 meetings, 2 for capital improvement budget study sessions and 1 for operating expenditure sessions to happen in March and April. And then lastly, the idea is to come in May with the first special meeting for the budget presentation. And if all things are going, in a positive trend, start considering budget adoption. And conclusion, hope you guys have a good sense of where you are at overall from a mid-year perspective. And this is just a receive and file, but there is a portion for approving budget amendments that are listed in the fiscal impact section of the report. And with that speedy overview, I hope you got a lot of good information, and staff and I are here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council questions? Don't all speak at once.
So what was the legal number?
I'm sorry, Mary, I could not hear that.
What was the legal number?
Yeah, you said we're gonna make a budget amendment for legal?
Legal.
Yeah, it was for $63,740. It's been recorded to capital outlay right now, and the recommendation is to move it into non-operating or non-department contingencies where it's more aptly put, and to put a budget there for it as well.
Okay.
David?
Does that adequately project the remainder of the year as far as what the legal requirements are going to be? Or are we going to be looking at potential additional adjustments as we go forward?
I don't know if George wants to jump in on here. I believe the overall projections project what we have right now and what we know right now from any additional budget amendments. I think the best course of action, considering where the city was at with the budget, is to have all additional budget amendments be brought forward to the city council for consideration and approval. And George, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, that's accurate. Thanks.
Well, does anyone remember what, to tagging on David, what was our budget for legal?
I want to, so the budget for legal, to answer your question, was 600,000, but I want to.
It's got to be trending way higher than that.
Well, I want to differentiate that this is a legal settlement, not legal services. So legal settlement is topics that are discussed in closed session.
Yeah, this is not legal fees.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And with all our pending legal actions that we've got going, is Trevor feel that that's an adequate projection for the remaining part of the fiscal year?
We're talking about the legal, this is a legal settlement. This is not legal fees, David.
Oh, I'm talking about legal fees. I said with the pending agendas that you're dealing with, do you feel that we have adequate budget dollars remaining in the legal budget to handle that?
I think we're okay at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Any public comment on this item? I knew it. Come on up, John Williams.
So my question concerns $930,700 for licenses and permits. I assume that includes building permits and the like. Is that is that the permits we're talking about?
Noah, would you mind commenting?
But
Sure.
I'll just.
Yeah.
My question is, my understanding from prior meetings is that H&R Green receives 1/2 of the proceeds to cover their services, give or take. And so my question is whether this is the city portion or the total portion.
So this will be the combination of various permits, construction permits, miscellaneous planning permits, miscellaneous public works permits. This is actually the revenue portion that the city is receiving. The HR Green portion would be paid out in expenditures located under contract services.
And in fact, it's actually split between the two sides of the house. Part of it's shared and part of it isn't. Any other council?
I don't think it's 50% either.
Yeah, it's less than that.
I have a question regarding medical benefits and the cost associated with those. As I understand it, with the new renewal that we put on the table, there's a slight savings to the overall city. Do you recall what that projection is, and is it included yet?
I can't recall the exact savings off the top of my head right now. I can certainly look into that and report that back to you. With regard to whether we included, we did not include it at this point because some of those savings may be eaten up as a result of increased vacancies being filled.
Okay.
And so depending on how hiring goes, I don't want to call that out as a savings yet. If it turns out to be a savings, then we'll gladly report that to the council.
Thank you.
So the staffing changes that we've talked about, and you may be talking about tonight, is that embedded in these changes here that we're talking about?
If you're referring to the police overhire,
The finance director.
and nothing about the finance director is included. We're awaiting council direction on that, so there's nothing that's included.
And that's not embedded in any.
Nothing is embedded. No.
So that would be that.
Yes.
Okay.
As for the police overhire, that's a budget adjustment that's proposed for city council consideration.
So the math here is sort of what it looks like is staffing is comprised of hired staff and contract labor. The total of which is $800,000
I think it is.
$1 million. and it sounded like you're going to adjust that in some way. Is that, I'm sorry, that's a dumb question. Is that full staffing aside from the finance director? Are we short of staff elsewhere?
So staffing is, right now, it's offset by contractual services or professional services.
Yes.
And so
But between the two, do you consider the office fully staffed?
no, the office is not fully staffed by a headcount basis. But in terms of a service level basis, we're providing the necessary level of services using our contractual and professional services to mitigate the staffing vacancies.
Okay. So the only recruiting that you're possibly thinking about would be the finance director. Are you recruiting anywhere else?
Not recruiting anywhere else, but given that the finance analyst is also acting as an HR analyst, we're exploring whether the new accounting technician classification that was approved by the city council, whether there's going to be additional support to our payroll functions.
Okay. So there might be additional uppers to this.
Yeah.
Martin, just for clarity, you're asking about upstairs, right? You're not talking about the police department?
No, I know about the police department.
Okay. Any other comments? It's a receive and file item.
I do have a couple.
It actually needs action. There was
Oh,
Because of the budgeted amendment.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
got it.
I have a couple quick comments.
I'm awake. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to thank staff and commend them. I know it's been quite a challenge, quite a battle to keep our city's budget as close to being balanced as possible in light of our revenue shortfall. I think that the combination of the city council's actions when we passed the budget and staff's recommendations and willingness and ability to operate under pretty tight conditions.
What you're looking for is squeezed.
Yeah. Has led us to sort of frankly do better than I thought we would be doing at this point in the year. However, I want to remind any members of the public and others who might be listening to this, some of the things that we have considered as a council, even some things that we thought we were going to do that we had, either approved or nearly approved, or were at least moving toward approval, and we have not been able to proceed with them because of financial constraints. And so some of those things include repairs and maintenance and seismic upgrades that are needed with the City Hall parking garage, repairs, maintenance, and seismic upgrades to City Hall itself, additional sworn police officers to meet the staffing levels that the chief has recommended, enhanced police technology, including a real-time crime center, mitigation of the Malaga Cove area water intrusion problem, additional city staff, including, for example, potentially a dedicated parkland staffer who could help manage wildfire risks and other risks within our many, many, many acres of parklands, a grant writer who could help the city obtain funding to mitigate various risks throughout the city, including wildfire risks, seismic risks, and other public safety risks, proactive and preemptive repairs and maintenance and upgrades to the sewers beyond the absolute minimum to maintain them, proactive and preemptive upgrade repairs and maintenance to the storm drains beyond the absolute minimum to keep them functioning, any additional funds to pay off the city's excess pension debt, which costs us something approaching $2 million per year in interest payments, and tree trimming services sufficient to really safely manage the nearly 20,000 trees within the cities. And that's really not even an exhaustive list. That's just a quick list of some of the most important things, some of the most obvious things that we've talked about wanting or doing that we have simply been unable to do And it is not a small number that these things all add up to. And so I think it's really important, as we, again, congratulate the staff for surviving on the squeezed, was it?
Squeezed.
Budget that they are working with, that we remember the, countless items that we are simply not doing.
Yes, the deferrals. Let's see. David, any comments?
Well, I will just echo what Councilman Lazzaro just indicated. There are so many additional items that this city needs to address with limited resources that I think that list continues to grow, and I want the public to be fully aware that we are not addressing all of these with this current budget. We are just trying to get by with the bare minimum.
Okay, thanks for the comments. Craig, anything?
I will echo the same comments, but I won't repeat them.
Okay. I'll echo them and not to repeat them as well. One other question. I think, we don't need to get into detail, just a reminder. I think there's a little greater reconciliation potentially required on insurance changes. Maybe, to think through. But that doesn't
You mean
have
like health insurance? You don't mean like workers' comp?
health insurance.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, in conversations that have been had. Okay, can I have a motion?
Okay, I will move that we receive and file the mid-year review and also adopt the recommended budget appropriation changes as listed in the fiscal impact section of the staff report.
May I have a second?
Second that.
So moved by Councilmember Lozzi, second by Councilmember Quinn. May we have a voice vote, please?
Councilmember McGowan.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Lozzi.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lazzaro.
Aye.
Mayor Kemps.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. On to item number 9. Discuss the citywide fire safety weed abatement program and award 2 contracts for citywide fire safety weed abatement. A, goat grazing services, and B, contractor services. May we have a staff report, please?
Public Works Director Antion will be providing the staff report. He's pulling it up right now. And then I believe
will there be a demonstration of live goats?
Somebody actually asked if we can bring one for show. But
Oh, you don't want that.
Baby goat petting opportunities, please.
okay. Okay.
You got to go. Mike.
Can you click got it so we get rid of that? Thanks.
Let me see if that tell me.
Oh, good.
Perfect. Just to share.
Is this in the attachments, Oscar, or no?
What's that?
Is the PowerPoint in the attachments? I don't think, no?
No, we just
Okay.
finished this presentation actually today.
So would you mind posting it later?
We'll it's in our folder. We'll post it.
Thanks.
Mayor and council members and members of the public. So the staff report before you, this is kind of an overview of that staff report, a little bit of a background of how we got here, and I think some good news considering what we just talked about. So let me see if this works. A quick timeline, so the city over the last 2 years talked quite a bit about these efforts, and I think even before I came here, they did a lot of creative things, including bringing goats grazing. So this is a quick timeline of that. And then, of course, we're brought us up to December, where we actually issue an RFP for a combination of goats and traditional services. And so we have 2 contracts that we recommend awarding tonight, and that's will give us a little bit more than we did last year. This is the overall map of what we include in the contract. Again, the blue zones are the goats grazing zones, and that's going to be 1 contract, and the red zones are a separate contract which includes two options. Option 1 is what we did last year, Zone 1 up to 20 feet, and then Zone 2 additional 50 feet for a total of 70 feet. Here is the option.
Go back.
Any questions?
I just wanted to look for, sorry. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
And I'll bring back the map if you want to discuss further. So these are the two options. Obviously, the first option includes up to 70 feet, so the 20 plus the additional 50 foot. And that is, in terms of compared to last year's project, is an 8% increase in cost, but it's an 81% increase in area. That's for option 1. And then for option 2, it's actually, we cover a little bit more than last year with less. So a 35% decrease compared to last year's budget. And also gives us an additional 32% increase on area cover. And I'll leave that for, and this is just kind of a representation of really where the costs are. Another way of looking at it, again, you can see on the middle column, the red box is basically the additional coverage if we went with option 2. And then on the yellow one is, of course, the goats, which cover quite a bit more than. And then this one is just in area. So this is in number of acres that we do. If we go with the option 1, we almost double what we do. But even with option 2, we still provide a little bit more coverage.
Awesome.
And I think we wanted to show a quick representation of what the 20 feet and the additional 50 feet looks like. So this area in particular shows how far we can go with the additional 50 foot. And I think that's the last one. So again, our recommendation, of course, is we have those two options. So we waiting for your direction to tell us.
Could you go back to the map?
Yes.
Do you have a map that lays over then what Bennett does for us?
I don't have the map here, but we have a couple of areas, like some of the PV drive. There are a couple of areas that we basically added the frequency. That's what we're doing to it. So instead of doing it on the number of frequencies that we have on the Bennett contract, we added one more in here.
So is
So
that
you've got
therefore it's shared?
you've got two vendors on the same property?
And there's a couple of areas that we have that.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Okay, can we go back to the math?
To the
Math, M-A-T-H, not M-A-P.
I know, he's like, he's there.
The math, the
MAP.
table, the dollars.
The M-A-T-H.
Could you take us through the changes from the current year and what we're doing? Because obviously at the bottom line of this one, it's 867, right? And that potential drop to 563 is, it seems most impacted by the, I'll call it manual work, the manual contractor work, right? Can you explain what happens as we move from the current fiscal year spending potentially 867 into the either one or two?
In terms of service, we cover either with option 2, we cover 32% more because we are adding more with the goats. So we add in area, and then the rest of it, we still maintain the 20 feet of area that we did last year.
The monetary difference.
So the first, in the first year, on the left side of the table, we're at $728,000. Suddenly that becomes 296. That's the goats, right?
That's,
No, what do you mean?
Oh,
That's the goats?
the goats are over here. So this line, so the goats are
Never mind, forget I said that.
on the yellow one is the goats, and the traditional services is on the top.
So are the goats in the 867?
No.
Yeah.
We actually
I see.
we actually included, I wanted to make sure that we included everything that we did last year, and that's why I included the $67,000 that we did last year on the goats. So it's the first line in yellow on the first column.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
So if it's cheaper to do it,
867, yeah, so you have the 860, you have the goats in the 867.
Because we did, remember we
We
have a
did it,
grant.
we didn't pay for it.
But we didn't pay
Yes,
for it.
yes,
So
we
it's a little
said-
misleading. So our cash outlay is 800,000.
Yeah, it's still, it was a revenue for the city. We received a grant, correct?
We got a grant. We didn't pay for that. So we spent 800,000.
Somebody
I'm not sure
else's
if that's
money.
gonna End up being apples to apples, but I just wanted to point that out.
Yes, exactly.
but are the goats cheaper than humans? And if so, why don't we do the whole thing with goats?
They can't get everywhere.
You can't.
Yeah, the goats don't like to be around people. So there's some areas where, yes.
Martin, it's only going
areas
to
that
be,
we
the
don't
exception
want.
is going to be your front
Yes.
yard. We'll put them all over your
Run
grass.
into those electric fences, the people.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Oscar, given the fact that these are different contractors and the contract expiration periods, I don't think are like 100% lined up, what kind of transitional issues or risks might we run, and how would you manage that?
We have an option with the current fire abatement or,
Weed abatement.
weed abatement contract. We have to exercise the option in March. So in March, we need to notify this contractor whether we want to exercise that option or we're done.
And when does that contract expire? Is that June?
The contract expires, I think, in December, typically. But again, if we go with this option, we have until March to tell them that we don't plan to exercise that option.
So I think David's question, which is, I think it's good to clarify. I think David, I'm sorry to speak for you if I get it wrong, but these companies work for, even the goats, work for us from June 1 to October 1. So
Yes.
So that's 4 months. I can use my fingers for that. So June, so the port we pay them for June is always going to be kind of in the prior. So when we paid BATS worked for us from June to October. We paid them June in the last fiscal year, and we paid them July, August, September in this. We've already paid them for this fiscal year.
We're done with
We're
this
done with them.
year's contract.
And whoever we rehire will owe them 1 month of payment for June in this fiscal year. And then the rest of their contract will be paid in the next fiscal year, because then we'll switch over. I think that's and that's why I think the staff report is written like we have to appropriate.
So,
you have
yes,
to
so let me,
appropriate the funds for the future fiscal year because of the way I think that's why it was written.
That's the way that it works is that for example, the GOAT services start in April. So we probably going to incur all of the GOAT services for the first year on this fiscal year.
Okay.
And that's where it gets a little bit complicated.
Oh, okay. I thought they were June 1 also.
Yes.
Sorry, it says it there. They're April they're April to September, so
Yes,
still
but
going to cross over.
yes.
But I guess the question I'm trying to raise is if it starts in April 1st and we're going to have some liabilities in the April, May, June timeframe, is that is not reflected in the deficit that we just reviewed for fiscal June 30?
Correct.
So that's going to be an increase in the deficit amount
this year.
in this fiscal year from what LSL just presented.
That's
Well, is
correct.
it? Because we budgeted 766, right?
We budgeted 766, but we spent everything. We basically, the way that we budgeted, well,
Do you have the table that shows that, what is it, whatever it is, 150,000 extra, that it's in the staff report?
Yeah, it was.
yeah.
That's not the one, but.
Yeah, it's in there.
My only point is I think we need to go back and look at whether we need another amendment to the budget authorization for fiscal 26.
So that's correct. We expect that if we award the contract for the goats this year, this will be the first year, but all of the expenses probably will happen this fiscal year. And that's where the math on the actual staff report shows, I think, $150,000. I think we had left 90 or something like that. I don't remember the figures.
90,544.
Yes. So that's what we're asking for, that for this year, we really need to move some of that money or make an amendment. And then it gets back to normal on the following year, which will be year 2 for the GOATS contract and the first year for the traditional one.
No, I fully agree and appreciate that, and I would ask that George and work with LSL to revisit what that number, budget augmentation needs to be for the current fiscal year.
Yeah, Councilmember McGowan, in the staff report, the adjustment that's required or requested of the City Council is $150,158.20. And so presumably that would be a budget adjustment, that would be in addition, that would be amending, that would be increase the amended budget deficit.
Sorry, say that again, George.
But I would ask that you revisit, make sure that that's an accurate number.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like it's low.
We'll revisit it, but we have confidence at this point, but yes, we'll continually sharpen the pencil on this.
So we were just talking about it, but I'll say it out loud so everybody hears it. I reached out to Janice Hahn's assistant to see if by chance there was any chance of them having funding to help us again. I haven't heard back, but maybe staff want to do that anyway. Because they respond to staff, they won't respond to electeds, you know how that goes.
I'll call Jennifer Lamarck right away.
Yeah, so did you get that email? All right. Any other questions before we ask for public comment?
I have a few.
Sure.
Grants was one of them. And looking at the blue zones, the red zones, and what I'll call no zones, are there any other areas that you had hoped to cover in this contract, but you don't necessarily think we have the funds, or for whatever reason you didn't put it in the contract?
Well, I mean, if you think about fire risk, you know, which areas we don't really focus a whole lot. Of course, we talk about the horseshoe area, number 4 in there. It's a very difficult area to get into. There's not much we can do in there. The other area that we could potentially should be doing something about is in number 2. And, you know, that's property that is managed by the golf course. We were.
Is that Malaga Dunes that you're pointing at?
That's correct. Those 2 little creek areas, and that's probably it. I will not really.
So the area 2, you mentioned the golf course is going to manage that area?
It's kind of, it's part of the golf property. We
I believe the words are supposed to.
Okay.
The words are also, and they know it.
And to be fair, we tried to apply for a FEMA grant. You know, with the golf course, we were not able to really complete the full package for that, for the golf course, but we can try it again next year.
We couldn't afford that grant writer.
So are there sorry, Craig.
No, thank you.
Are there parcels, maybe where the 8 is? Okay.
Cornell?
So are there parcel or sections where the goats and the I'll call him the contractor, human contractor, are
Intersect.
going to be working different sections of the same parcel? Or the same, not parcel, I guess is not the right word, same section of town?
No, they're pretty, I mean, they're only the limits, so, the fence is going to be the demarcation point between what the hen crews will be doing and what the goats will be doing. Plus the timing.
We're worried about the goat getting weed whacked?
So
No, I'm just trying, I'm really worried about overlap. I'm worried about,
Yes.
I'm worried about overlap.
And so it's, so it's going to look different between the goats and the hen crews, so the goats usually, they like to bring them in earlier when there's still a little bit of moisture on the vegetation, so they can, tackle that. So it's going to be, probably those areas will have a little bit of growth even in the dry months. So and then the hen crews will come in and they do the rest.
Gotcha. Should I have my questions? Yeah, keep going, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so, we talked about kind of the timing of the money. Okay, so the maps, so again, I really was hoping, and I thought I had requested at the last council meeting when we said, staff said you were going to be bringing this item, that we had a map that overlapped with Bennett, because that is just a recurring problem, is that we have, where some places are getting hit, and I'm kind of hearing you say it, some places are kind of getting hit twice and some places aren't getting hit at all. And that ends up being a huge effort by someone, staff, HR Green, whomever, to sort that out. And so I really hesitate to go into now what is essentially a three-way contract for all landscaping and weed abatement. So Goats, Bennett, and contractor. So that's an issue for me. Do we not have that map,
We have the map, and we plan to clean it up, and we might bring back to the council an amendment to remove any duplicates. But right now, we didn't have the time.
How significant do you perceive that to be?
I don't think it's that significant, but Monica, I don't know if you can speak to that. I can put you on the spot on that.
I studied the maps pretty closely, and it looks like it's mainly on the medians to me, but does that sound right?
Hello, everybody. Monica Penko, assistant engineer. So in terms of the overlap, I don't believe it's significant. I could say in terms of a percentage, probably 15 to 20%.
That's significant.
That's significant.
Like you said, it's a medians. And then I could also speak to the overlap. I know this was programmed back a couple years ago, that we reduced the frequency in Bennett's contract. So what the idea was that for Bennett to do, let's say, for example, the medians twice a year during the spring and fall season, and for fire safety to come in during the summer season as one time a year to complete that 3 times a year schedule. So that was the intent, but on a map it does look to be an overlap, but I just wanted to shed some light onto that question that's been brought forward.
So I had asked for a holistic approach to looking at, again, this 3-pronged landscape, maintenance, fire safety, and, the fire safety is broken into 2. And I'm just going to tell staff, because I really want you to drive over there and look at it. I will tell you my biggest pet peeve parcel my biggest pet peeve parcel in this city, but in my top 5 of pet peeve parcels is on Via Coronel and Via Fernandez. And there's an open space, open parcel. There's, street on 2 sides, and there's a house with a wall on 1 side. Okay, so again, we are trying to get 20 feet from a structure is fire safety weed abatement, right? Okay, so Bats, in this example, comes along and cuts 20 feet along that property line, right, to get 10 feet, to get the 20 feet of clearance. All right. Then Bennett comes and cuts 10 feet around the right-of-way of the whole parcel. And in the center of the parcel is 20-foot dead weeds on a very visible corner in the city that nobody, like it just, we made a ring around the parcel and left everything in the middle dead. That makes no intuitive sense. It can't possibly be a good use of taxpayer dollars. And so I wonder how many of those are you. He's laughing at me because it really is.
Well,
my
no,
pet
this
peeve.
is the same
But
spot
that's
where
just-
somebody wants a right of way, right?
And, I mean, it's just, so we got it. We have to use common sense on this stuff.
I have some good news on that point, because I agree with you that.
Did you take your lawnmower out there?
No, but I think the goats, because I had a similar question. It was a different corner, but there's a corner on Del Monte and near the Del Sol kind of split off with something similar, where you have kind of a ring and then you have the dead mustard grass type stuff. And what Oscar explained is that the blue areas, which that's one of them, the goats approach it differently than the human crews. So they essentially solve that problem because they go in and they don't just do the 20-foot thing.
Well,
and
that's
the
kind of why I
10-foot
asked the
thing.
question,
They
like,
go
so are
in.
there places where
Yeah.
both are going to go in there? Well, then all three are going to go in there, which makes no sense. Anyway.
Well, yeah, but I think the goats will help with that problem because unlike the human crews that do make that weird ring, where it's blue, the goats are going to go in and they're going to do a more kind of comprehensive chew. It's a technical term.
Now that we've all talked about it, what are your thoughts?
No, I think it makes sense. It does require a little bit more staff time to go and walk all of the areas in a very detailed, manner. And also for us to have somebody who actually inspects all of those areas. Last year, we were able to do, Carl and I did some inspections, but we didn't did 100%. And so we don't see everything that everybody here in the city sees. It's just, staff time.
Maybe it would be helpful to get the obvious spots because Victoria's seen at least 5 of them.
The high visibility, definitely, yes. And if you know those areas, please send me the list.
So last question, sorry, is, so are the goats doing mainly remote growth, or are they going in places where they're they're getting the 20 feet next to structures?
They're
or
going from property to the, so he fences, if you see a blue area, that's basically where the fence is going to be.
Right, but what's,
And so
I don't know what's, from looking at this
so
map,
it's
I
gonna
don't know
be-
what's around it. Are those
it
houses
is.
or are those remote areas?
No, those are near properties.
So it's near structures.
Near structures, yeah. So, or property lines.
Okay,
Same as the traditional,
gotcha.
where your 20-foot line starts, that's where they start.
Okay.
Is there any damage control communication risk associated with this?
What do you mean?
There's a guy in a trailer.
He didn't read into it. So the first time we started getting really aggressive with weed abatement, we got yelled at a lot.
Oh.
So, today after there've been a couple significant fire locations and people are much more aware and sensitive, they're probably more open to this.
Well, people still
Yes.
get mad when you come walking around without
Well-
telling them first.
Well, we'll still be doing a lot of outreach before we start the work.
Yeah.
Including our website, our media, and then, of course, you can miss the goats. So once we bring them to a certain area, we'll keep up the.
And they calm everyone down anyway, so that's good.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question, Oscar?
Right ahead.
Oscar, roughly how big a herd of goats are we talking about that would be coming in? I know they'd be moving around, but roughly how many animals are we looking at bringing into the city?
I'm sorry, I don't have the answer, but I'm talking to the contractor, Michael Choi, and unfortunately, I don't know if he's on the Zoom. He was going to try to make to the Zoom meeting. I know he was trying to get like an additional 1,000 goats or something like that for this year's contracts. And it's something that also we want to have this contract in place fairly soon. That's why we kind of hurry up and got it to the council today, because, you know, the ability of the goats, we want to take advantage when.
If you want to make for one,
Yes.
you gotta go.
Oscar, the reason I'm asking the question is not for immediate consumption here, but there's a lot of interest in the community where I think families would love to be able to adopt a goat, and if we could come up with some type of a program in the future where we might be able to say, you know, for $200 you can adopt 5 goats or whatever it might be. And it might be a fundraising way of offsetting some of our costs. And that's the reason I'm asking the question, that you can get back to me at whatever point in time.
Thank you. Yeah, we can talk to the contractors. I don't know how we're going to manage, but they're experts in managing their herd, so.
Well, I think in other communities, they do adopt these animals, and it becomes kind of a community event. And I know when they have appeared in PVE in the past, the families and the young kids love to go up and, you know, check out the goats and so forth. And I'm just throwing it out as an idea.
Do we have any public comment? Come on up. Need a microphone, though. And just for fun, can you hand me a blank card? I'll write your name. Speaker card? Just hand it to the chief.
Oh, you want me to give it to you right now?
Yeah. You don't have to fill it out. I'll deal with it. I know who you are. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. It was just a quick question. Obviously, you said you were going to start with the goats earlier than later. How do you decide where the goats are going to go first and second? What's that process? Because I know there's some particularly concerned residents that would like to see their canyons cleared before and others. Anyway, just say.
No, thank you. It's a good question. And so that's something, once we have an approval from the council to move with this, we start basically filling out our schedule. And so we need to really meet with our contractors and then evaluate a couple of the areas and see which areas benefit most at first. So that will something that we'll determine in conjunction with the contractor. Yeah.
Back to council discussion. Oh, you wrote it. Cool. That was fast writing. We want to discuss the option 1 versus 2 and what our thoughts are there.
Sure.
I'm looking at you.
All right. So, Oscar, thank you very much for all the work that's been done and whoever else helped with this. With the goats, you've given us a lot to chew on here. So,
that was a lead.
I love seeing a negative number on a report, and the fact that we have an opportunity under option 2 to save a considerable amount of money through this goat option, I think it's fantastic. So I really don't have much more to comment other than option 2 looks very good to me.
Well, I'll piggyback on Craig. Is that okay? Can I go next? So I will piggyback on Craig and say that I think option 2 does what we need it to do. I think that, you know, the object here is, you know, just as a kind of a refresher on the 20 feet, you know, 20 feet's not some arbitrary number. The kind of the zone 1 is 50 feet from a structure. You know, we're not going to measure from people's structure. We're not going on people's private property. So we took the approach years ago that we go 20 feet from the property line. Given our setbacks of our houses, that should get you 50 feet from the structure. So I think that option 2 with the zone 1 is what we need it to do. I think that BATS, BATS was able to do that, and contractors we had before them, they struggle when you get into the zone 2. I think we need to do zone 1 and do it well. be great if we could maybe get Janice Hahn to kick in some money on the goats, but I do think that they do, they do a good job. So, and that guy, man, he runs a tight ship with those goats, so that's good. I like that,
Don't forget the dogs.
and the dogs, and oh yeah. But and I agree with Craig that, I think that we're doing the job that we need to do and coming in a little bit under, under budget for, that's kind of,
Yes.
soaked us. I mean, but they were the only man standing and we had no choice at the time. So there you go. I mean, this was the depths of the drought when all these services came to be. So I agree with Craig on option number 2, and would still ask, though, for a future agenda item to really have a good discussion about our holistic, then the 3, I'm assuming we're going to do something, the 3-prong here, just to make sure we're running a tight ship.
Derek?
I forgot to mention that we actually have Jared and Carrie on Zoom from the
Southern California weed abatement or whatever.
Southern California, yes.
Oh.
Southern California brush. So-called brush.
Those are the hand crews.
So if they have any questions for them, please. And thank you for participating, Chair and Gary.
So, if we weren't in such a severe budget crunch, I would prefer option 1. I think that I've seen some of the areas that are cleared up to 20 feet, and, in some cases, it does look sufficient with, yard setbacks and things like that. I think in other cases, you've got big trees or giant bushes sort of on either side of the 20 feet, and you can easily imagine if one or the other side was just completely up in flames, that just the heat is gonna light it up anyway. So, again, in theory, I think there's at least some locations within the city where more than 20 feet would be the ideal. I think the goats are interesting because they, potentially leave trees and certain other things behind, but they get more than 20 feet or more than even 50 feet, so they're pretty effective in their own way. One thing, I actually went to Oscar's office and looked at some of the maps that were more detailed. And one of the things that struck me, and Oscar, I don't know if you could pull up the map view again, but there were a couple of interfaces that seemed to really stand out. And, particularly the green area in number 4, right, with sort of the Diaz Trail cutting through it, is just incredibly thick bush, right, on a very steep hill with no roads around it, and then homes directly interfacing with it. And, that's an area to me where 20 feet, more than any of the other areas, really doesn't feel sufficient. The other area I was concerned in is the Del Sol Fire Trail. That's kind of in Sector 5, but that's being cleared with the goats. And so once Oscar and I talked about that, we realized the goats are going to go more than 50 feet. So you effectively get that kind of range of clearance. So I asked Oscar, I said, I always like to make things complicated. Could we have?
No. I love you recognize that about yourself. That's awesome.
Could we have an option, essentially, 1B? And to me, what that would be is sort of in that ring around there to try to go more than 20 feet, and only in that space, just because of the extreme density of the fuel there. And then the fact that it's interfacing directly with homes on all
So where am I looking at? I see PV Drive West.
So it's, I don't know, can you zoom in a little more, Oscar? Is that as?
Let's see.
Yeah. It's right, yeah, it's basically just that outline that we're looking at, right? Yeah. So it's the barrel that goes up. Those homes are threatened. It's Via Visalia. I think that's, if you go down to W32, Oscar, I think that's Paseo La Cresta. And again, the problem with these homes is that they're basically just right up against that deep, thick brush. And so if you go 20 feet and you've got trees burning kind of right over somebody's
So,
yard.
Derek, can I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
Like we had handled the tree situation where staff came back to us and said, hey, we need some extra money to cover some trees. Would it be possible in this scenario where you would come back to the council and say, we've had some extra growth that we weren't anticipating, or in this area, we really need to handle it a little more aggressively, within reason? Is it possible, and would you be okay with that?
Well, I would even say too that, let's get through zone 1. It's a form, let's get through this.
That, right.
Let's see what we've got. And then, because then when we're done, we can go through with the fire department. And the fire department will say, you need more over here and you need more over there. And then we can say, okay, we need more over here and more over there. In the fall, we're going to need this and this.
Right.
And I think you got to work through the process, see what you've got, and then go from there, I think.
No, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I think, Oscar, we had sort of talked about something along those lines, that we'd potentially approve the option that makes sense tonight, but with an understanding that there'd be a little more study on some of those areas that might need, particularly W33, W34, W32. Yeah.
David?
If you go back to option 1, I'm fully supportive of option 1 right now because of our fiscal situation. Until we can figure out whether we can raise incremental revenues, I'm reluctant to spend more money in a deficit situation because we have so many competing priorities. So right now excuse me, I misspoke. I want to go to option 2. Option 2, I misspoke.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
For financial reasons, yes.
Okay, so I'll add to that. I'm in sync with all this. I think, should we have a revenue change and I'm not committing to future spending, I think there's three things that line up here. One is we go with option 2. We're having a multi-vendor change. We get Councilmember Lozzi's ask back that we ensure that the collaboration and combination of these vendors works. We see how it goes between the goats and this new vendor that we're going to use. And then that gives us the option, if in fact we have revenue available, the ideal fire answer is go as far as you possibly can all the way into option 1. Derek, I don't disagree with you. But again, from a budget perspective, it makes sense to do 2 now. So I'm saying the same thing in a different way, but I don't even know that, if I felt I could afford it, I wouldn't even ask for a 1B. I would just go.
Sure.
So, okay. Let's see, we had public comment, we had
We did.
further comments? Yeah, we did. So, motions.
Should you need 2 separate, can we approve these 2, award both of these contracts on one motion, or do you need these in 2 separate?
We wrote it as a one staff report to award 2 contracts. So if you tell me which ones, we'll do the, basically option 2 means we award, the GOAT contracts doesn't change on either option. It's always the same. What changes is the traditional with abatement contract. Option 2 is 20 feet. And option 1 is 70 feet.
And just for the record, could we say out loud the name of the 2 companies we're talking about awarding to, just for the record?
Yes,
here?
the contracts awards will be to fire grazers for the GOAT scope of work, and the traditional is so-called brush.
Okay.
Goat Grazers is the name of the company, right, you said?
And SoCal Brush for the second one? Okay.
Okay, well, I'll give it a try, because I'm on a roll. So I would move that we award 2 contracts for citywide fire safety weed abatement. One to GOAT.
Fire grazers.
Thank you, Fire Grazers, Inc.
This is the staff recommendation from attachment A.
Yes.
Yes.
And also, Fire Grazers and SoCal Brush, and adopt option number 2 of the staff report.
And that is from attachment B, correct?
Correct.
You want attachment B?
I'll second that.
Motion, Councilmember Lozey, second, Councilmember McGowan. Voice vote, please.
Councilmember McGowan?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Lozey?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lazaro?
Aye.
Mayor Kemps?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone's help.
Good conversation.
Last one, item 10, review of Finance Director recruitment staff report.
Thank you, Carrie. And Jared.
Maybe.
Thank you.
Sorry to be overly
Honorable
aggressive there. I'm not like trying to run over everybody.
Honorable Mayor Kemp, I'm going to try to do my best, City Manager Carrie Coleman impersonation here, and just going to take a moment and just say, I think Oscar did a great job. I don't think he tooted his horn enough in terms of what we did here. Since I came here a year ago, we talked repeatedly about renegotiating these landscaping contracts, getting to a point where we can also, save costs. And I think we did that, and we increased service levels. We went from 95 acres to potentially 145 acres, and with additional cost savings that we can potentially realize. And so I think that work should be commended, and kudos to you and your team, and obviously contractors. And thanks for the City Council.
I'm going to do it. Let's
providing
go.
that record.
Thank you.
We'll buy you a new pair of boots so you can get back up there. Get in there.
Oscar is the GOAT.
That's 2. Wow. That's 2.
That's 2.
He's a bad man. All right. So moving on to the finance director item. So I'll try to keep this brief. I know that the City Council has reviewed the staff report on this, but as part of our ongoing effort to be responsive to the council work plan and follow up on council's prior discussions about the need for a finance director, staff has brought this item forward for consideration. The finance director role has remained vacant since April 2023, and as noted in the report, this vacancy continues to place some strain on our ability to manage the city's financial operations and support the Finance Advisory Committee, but I should say it's being mitigated utilizing contract personnel, and particularly LSL. Tonight, staff is not seeking approval of a finalized recruitment package. What we're doing is simply asking for discussion and direction on this. Specifically, we're requesting that the council confirm whether you'd like the staff to begin the recruitment process, and if so, whether there are any modifications to the position or salary range you would like us to incorporate before we initiate a search. As you could tell, there's been a compensation study just based on the finance director position in the report. I'll leave it up to the council to make the conclusions they would like to make on that. But in short, we're bringing this item in response to council direction, in response to your priorities, and we're ready to proceed with whatever direction council prefers on this, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Let's start with questions since we reviewed it.
So a couple of those attachments, 2 or 3 of the attachments, were those actual proposals from recruiter firms?
Prior.
Or those are old ones?
I think those are brochures, right, that it's referencing. I don't have
Looked
it.
like one came from Bob Murray, looked like one came from...
Those were prior recruitments.
Those were...
Oh, those were the old ones?
Those were the old ones.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I was going to say, oh, wow, are we going to use those guys again?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay, never mind.
No, we're bringing, just to kind of clear the record and showcase that we went through recruitments with various different firms, and these were the job descriptions that was detailed in those job brochures at that time.
So are you going to do an RFP for a recruiter?
It would be a solicitation of services. Obviously, it would have to come in budget. It would, depending on the amount that it would come in, I can't imagine it being over $25,000. But if it's below $25,000, that's within the city manager's discretion to approve an agreement.
Okay.
Greg?
Yes. Thank you for that. So last year we talked about the need for a finance director. We know we have an interim situation right now. We were pressing for the audit, which got done. Thank you. Mid-year budget analysis that we just saw is on track timing-wise, which is great. As I understand it, we're in the policies and procedure training and updating all of that right now. So we're getting that in place so that when and if a finance director comes in, the whole team is all ready to go from that standpoint. Do we have any other options available to us, be it LSL or volunteers or anything else right now? Or do you feel as though we're in a position where we need to move forward with you being you and Carrie at this point?
Hi, Carrie. How's it going?
Right now, obviously, council has armed us with the funding necessary to have a contract with LSL. As of right now, staff is moving swiftly through all the objectives that have been pointed out. We haven't encountered any necessarily difficulties associated with providing the necessary service levels to our finance operations, and LSL has been a great partner thus far. Obviously, coming from multiple cities where there has been a finance director, it's helpful to have a person in that seat. That being said, LSL has been a great partner, and we actually have somebody that is supervising a lot of journal entries, supervising budget adjustments, making a lot of modifications. It's not necessarily Noah, but it's another staff member, part of LSL. They're sitting in the finance director office for 2 to 3 days of the week, and they're handling a lot of the meat and potatoes of finance operations that are really necessary, and putting eyes on things that for our reference, things that I probably wouldn't even notice because as deputy city manager, we're more generalists, and finance directors are experts in their field, and so LSL, we benefited from having LSL as part of our contract in a contract realm, with having Noah on meetings remotely like we have today, and having them having a personnel in the office on a 2 to 3 day work schedule.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
For now.
Thanks.
For the market salary range of 188 to 242, so is 242 the highest that any other city is paying of those comparable cities, or is that some sort of like a percentile? Is that like a 75th percentile? Do you know how they?
I'm trying to pull up the
Which one was it?
Attachment.
Is that the range by city? Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, look at B.
Look at B. Okay.
So
Max
attachment B, you mentioned
okay.
240.
So that's like a 95th percentile or something like that. Okay, from the staff report.
Yeah, so the average in the public realm that we observed was on a salary basis, not on a total comp basis, was the minimum of 172,000 to 230,000 on a salary basis.
Got it.
What do you see the role of LSL, assuming that we have a successful campaign here for finance director? What would happen with LSL in regard to the new finance director? Would that trickle away, or did you keep both of those roles?
I think in the short term, it would be highly recommended to have crossover period.
Oh, definitely.
We don't know how long that crossover period would be needed. It probably depends on the selected candidate for that position, whoever would fill that role, and depending on the need of that selected candidate, we'd have a conversation to give them an understanding on what type of support they need, so that we can try to support that chosen candidate. But there's no clear answer on that. I think it depends is the shortest way I could put it.
That would affect the cost of the whole process.
It would.
Are you hoping to find someone who could do most of the roles that LSL is doing now?
Yes, that's the goal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
David?
Michael, you go first.
Oh, you're waiting to line me up?
Yep.
I'm not sure, I have a lot of comments. I'm not sure I have questions.
Yeah, as I say, I don't think I have questions, but comments.
Come on, John, you got to come up. Public comment. No. Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh.
No public
Everybody
comment.
else left. So sad.
And you'll probably enjoy what I have to say.
Okay.
David, go.
Okay, well, right now, I haven't seen the current job description, which is something I would like to see. I am not necessarily in favor of committing to a search at this juncture with our fiscal uncertainty before us, because I don't know whether we need a full-time finance director or we need a part-time finance director, or call it a fractional finance director in conjunction with a group like LSL. And I think that there's a lot of needs, remedial needs that still need to be addressed in our city, our systems, our ERP, and everything else that has to be redefined if and when we have the financial wherewithal in order to support it. We have caught up to basically do the bare minimum requirements, getting the audits done, getting the financials issued on a more timely basis, but we are so far behind where we should be, in my candid opinion, for thinking of long-range planning and future, in managing cash flows into the future, in ensuring that the community will have the funds available when needed. And therefore, I think that I would recommend that we hold on this recruitment, continue with LSL in the interim until we understand our revenue resources and capabilities because of all of our other competing priorities.
Thank you. I'm going this way. Derek.
So, I don't think I've ever been part of this city while it's really had a finance director, at least not for very long. So it's a little hard for me to say exactly what we're missing. But I will say that while I think LSL has been doing a good job, having them be primarily remote, having them be, in a sense, sort of part-time or fractional, I think there are differences in that. I think that, one area in particular is contract negotiation and contract management, and I think we just saw Oscar do an absolutely phenomenal job with some contract negotiation tonight. But I think that broadly speaking, that is sort of a skill set where there's some gaps in our current lineup. And I think there's some other areas where it's just not quite the same, not having someone on site and not having someone really dedicated. I think we are behind where we should be on some policy development and other things that, while we've plugged those gaps, we do have some fingers, in the dike, so to speak. And so I think having a finance director is absolutely a goal that we should have. I think we have to be realistic about the cost. I think that it is very much a labor market, and if we don't pay market, we are not going to get great candidates, or maybe any candidates. I mean, we've literally had trouble attracting, qualified candidates, I think. So, having said that, I agree that this is a very tenuous moment in the city's history and financially, and adding a structural deficit and trying to manage that transition and everything else at this moment is probably not the ideal time to do it. So I am torn, but I would say that my gut feeling is we continue with LSL until we have a better understanding of where we're going to be financially over the next year or so.
Interesting.
Going this way, Victoria.
Oh, you're looking at me?
Yep.
I was looking at him.
Oh, I'll pick one.
So, okay, so a few thoughts. Well, first, because I don't like to constantly revisit decisions that we've made. So we did make the decision that we need a finance director. I think if you're going to be a community that is, well, we currently, voters voted to tax themselves. We're asking them to do that on a larger scale. I mean, you have to demonstrate command of your financials. You have to be on top of it. You can't be months behind. I mean, you've got to be on top of it. And so we already made that decision that we wanted a finance director. We talked about, do we want a permanent outsourced solution? So we already made that decision. And we really said we wanted LSL to right the ship, which they've done you're right, they've been a great partner and they've done a terrific job. But we didn't want to hire a finance director and throw them into the deep end of a messy pool. We wanted things nice and neat, and we wanted to bring in the fire department, I wrote FD, finance director to take ownership of the department. But for me, I mean, I think it's super critical that we refocus on the fact that we need a new ERP. We need a new financial system. And part of our decision for having a permanent finance director was and even LSL really advised us on that. The new finance director must own that process. And we've just, man, we've been, I mean, sorry, I was a city treasurer 9 years ago and we were limping along then. So anyway, so those are my thoughts on that. I think we have to forge ahead. I think we in case we're questioning whether or not we want a finance director, I would say we do. We've made that decision.
I think my colleagues flipped me.
What?
I think you flipped me. I think I'm on board.
Well, now I'm going to have a but. Now I got but.
Okay.
So, I mean, everybody's raising good points, for sure. For me, the length of time of a recruit, I think what we said to the city manager is that at the start of the next fiscal year, we want a finance director in place. And if you look at this timeline in the staff report, if everything goes perfectly, we'll have a finance director. So I think just the length of time for a recruitment, for me, says we gotta get this thing moving. And then just commentary on the salaries, that's always a struggle for us. And I'm also just gonna, I was trying to figure out the median. I was just, I guess, going with the midpoint or something. But I appreciate all the work and all the analysis and updating our comp study and things. And I just want to remind people that, we have always been a city that says, we pay midpoint salaries. We never have strived to be the highest payer on the, to be on the high end of the range. We just haven't. And so we can't. We haven't. We can't. I don't love the concept of, let's see where we are. Obviously we're talking about after a ballot measure. Because in my mind, if we have a successful ballot measure, that is not the, hey, here's your carte blanche to go pay somebody at the very, very, very tippy top end of the range. I'm kind of hearing maybe that's what people are saying, but I would.
That's not what I'm hearing people say.
Okay, good. Then I must have misheard. So anyway, I would go forward. I think we stick with the decision we made. I would start the ball moving forward just because it is such a long process. Keep our eye on the end game, and then have a discussion about the salaries.
Craig?
Craig.
Well, thank you for sharing. As you know, I've been beating the drum to have a finance director, specifically as it relates to any new revenue opportunities that we have here. But I'm comfortable right now with LSL and the stopgap measures that we have in place in the short term. But for the long term, I do believe we need a finance director. I think the ERPs is another issue that we have to tackle as part of this decision. And when it comes to the finance director, I don't, I'm a budget hawk, but midpoint probably isn't going to get it done. So we have to be honest with the market and ourselves and see if, what we really need if and when we move forward with that finance director. And to Derek's point, a finance director that is helping our goat here with some of the contract negotiations. I think he even close to Oscar, I'm not sure. But I don't think the timing is right at the moment. And I don't want to put that burden on our budget until we have a revenue source that we can tackle the ERP and the finance director at the same time, if that's possible. So I would say hold off and use LSL as a stopgap for now.
So I'm generally in sync. Let me say a couple of things. One is, and I know it's my thing, and I'm going to just own it. I'm just staring at this classic PERS category, looking at $30,000 of new PERS obligation and a round numbers, $300,000 additional salary that creates that much more debt risk when we haven't really addressed the problem. So it's not for me so much that it's not that we don't need a finance director. We absolutely need to deal with ERP. It's outdated. It's ridiculous. The challenge is not only the cost of the whole thing, but the exposure to the additional debt without having dealt with the problem. Let's also hit another elephant in the room, and that is that, you know, the minute that you have $237,000 finance director, then you look around the room and you say, what other areas of management salaries, where are they? I realize I'm opening a can of worms, but I'm just going to be honest. Where are they? Are they competitive? Where are they in our salary survey? You know, it's always interesting. I'll compare it to a corporation. It's always interesting. You know, we need the latest, greatest director of, I'll pick my industry, artificial intelligence, and we're going to pay him $500,000. Well, what about the janitor that you haven't given a raise in 9 years, right? It's we have to look at the whole thing. And when we end up in one management level position where we go and look at the salary survey and say, well, geez, yeah, we want to do that as compared to outsourcing it or not, and what our PERS exposure is and how we're dealing with our debt load, combined with, you know, all the other stuff everyone said, we have to look at the whole thing holistically. Do I believe that in the long term, PVE needs a finance director? Absolutely, yes. But I think we have to be real with the numbers. You know, to Victoria's point, I don't think we have to pay top of the category, but to Craig's point, we have to compete. So I don't want to repeat what everybody said, but until such time as there's additional revenue that's really truly on the table and we can cover the gap, deal with the ERP issue, but then be mindful of how high that salary goes because of everyone else's exposure. You know, it's to your point, new revenue, whatever it is not a cookie jar experience, right? It's not everybody go get a cookie and spread it around. It's do it mindfully because these things reset and they're going to have to be funded long term. And to the only remaining member of the public's point over and over again, there are long-term liabilities that need to be addressed and factored into the whole equation. What did I miss?
Well, I'm hearing a consensus for punting right now. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Is that what everyone wants to do?
Yeah, just like the
Okay.
Super Bowl.
And assuming Noah's still here, thank you for all that you've done and that you continue to do. All right. So I guess we don't need to do anything with that item. What about any staff
Sorry,
direction?
The deputy city manager has a question for you.
Go ahead.
Just to be clear, your direction is to proceed with beginning a recruitment?
Nope.
No, okay. all right.
Hunt.
When I heard hunting, I'm expecting recruitment.
Hunting with a P.
Hunt.
Yes.
Oh, okay, got it.
Punting does not mean,
Not an MAP, an MAT.
punting does not mean trying to score a touchdown in a very bad Super Bowl at the fourth down. No,
Clearly, we all need to enunciate better. Okay.
no, we're going to hold.
But hang on, I mean, obviously, it's valuable information that we're going to hang on to, and we're going to pull it out when we're ready to pull it out, for sure.
Yeah, council commissioned a compensation study at the beginning, last fiscal year technically, and then we brought it to the council, I believe it was the first or second meeting of July. And in that compensation study, obviously, there's analysis there. Things have changed. One thing that we put in the report was, for example, this classification. At that time, it was 11% off market. Now it's 16% off market. And obviously, there's things that change. You have renegotiations of MOUs, you have cost of living adjustments and so forth. So this is a mark that changes constantly. And so depending on council direction, we can relook at those things. The good thing about that compensation study that we did is that we asked for all the templates so that we can we can revisit these compensation studies for even individual positions or holistically, and that we can give that to the council so they can be armed with the necessary information to make the correct decisions.
Well, let's say this out loud because it keeps getting talked about over and over again. You know, David talks long-term forecast. We've done some version of that. He talks about, and you know, multitudes of us talk about reserve study. We need guidance and support from LSL in doing so. You know, there's been conversation with the city manager, you know, independently about, you know, reserve study, long-term liability, you know, we talk pension. All of this has to come together in one formulated, you know, plan picked off piece by piece, you know, presented to the public with the differences, you know, again, the public speaker's request over and over again. That's what all that is. And it's difficult to make these decisions piecemeal when there isn't an overarching plan. And then, you know, to my comment and your comment about the changing market situation, we're always adapting to the next need and not, you know, not focused on the global 50,000-foot view that we absolutely have to get focused on. So, you know, I would say for me, and maybe we can provide this direction, with LSL's experience and expertise combined with yours and Carrie's, I think we need an overall map. We probably need a mop too. Map and plan that extends beyond the current fiscal year. I mean, you're talking budget and CIP. You know, there's a little bit more to that, and I'm not going to go over repeating what you've heard 50 times. You know what's needed.
I will just echo what Michael said. I couldn't agree more. And yes, we need a finance director. We need that expertise as part of our team, but we're not ready for it at this juncture.
But do we agree on the direction that I suggested that we provide? That,
most definitely.
That we look at this holistically, that we seek LSL's feedback and continue utilizing their guidance, you know, not just from the day-to-day perspective and that of ensuring that our audits are on track and we're doing our bank recs and doing all the obvious stuff that every city has to do, every business has to do.
We'll add to that too, you know, we need to, sorry, David, we need to have the, you know, we need our finance advisory committee to
re-engage.
We got to re-engage and yeah, and I mean, LSL is going to have to man that, you know, I mean, it can't be, if we're going to make this decision to kind of go along with an outsourced solution, to your point of the bigger map, it's like, well, okay, but we're going to need you to do this for us. You know, it can't just be the bare minimum anymore. That's not bare minimum. I don't mean that in a negative. No, it's still on the phone. I didn't mean it like that. But anyway.
If council would like, we can ask for, you know, one of the things that LSL has indicated, because we've vocalized this need for long-term forecasting. We've heard this, and LSL has indicated that they have now started building out those long-term forecasts, those modeling, where they have that capability now because they were just so focused on audit. So they have that ability now. If council would like, we can solicit a proposal from LSL to kind of get an understanding on what that would look like from a cost perspective, from an hours perspective.
Or any other appropriate third party. It doesn't necessarily have to be the one. I'm open to hearing suggestions. I personally am not up for going and hiring a $300,000, and I'm including benefits finance director.
I would encourage that we seek as many proposals and ideas as we can as to alternative ways of addressing our problem.
So I think the only slight hesitation that I have with this concept is I think there's a distinction between what I'll call financial forecasting and financial modeling.
Fair.
And priorities, right? And so LSL or finance director, maybe even Carrie and George, as much as they understand what's happening in the city, may or may not be able to sort of independently go and set and price and map priorities. They can do, you know, capital studies and, you know, revenue projections and inflation projections and things like that. And so I guess
that's why there are CIP workshops, and that's why there are goal setting sessions with a consultant. That's why
right. So are we having them for the big or I'm sorry, what's that?
David?
I just said they go hand in glove. You need both in order to properly move forward.
So we're potentially asking for a proposal to do the big version of all of the above.
Maybe in a step-by-step understanding, being mindful of budget and revenue.
Okay.
Somehow we need to get off of the short-term thinking and the hire a consultant that tells you how to fix a problem, but you realize that you can't afford to fix it, so you thank them for the information and you never do it. Somehow this city has to get out of that
Right.
cycle.
Right.
That's the point.
It's an interesting idea. I agree. There's a couple steps between.
Well, I'm not trying to solve the whole world in one night. I'm just answering the finance director question.
The first thing we need to do is get an inventory of all the issues within our city, and that's one of the things that we don't have right now in order to build a long-range plan, in order to look at what are the cash flow requirements going to be needed in the coming years.
All right. George and team have heard it. It's on. It's recorded 50 times.
With LSL, and then LSL will say, oh, okay, so what I'm hearing is the council wants this and this and this. We do this, we don't do that. We recommend you do this before you do that. I mean, that's what we're looking
That's
for.
it.
Sure.
Bingo.
Okay.
All right. Are we done with 10?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Mayor's done enough reporting. Council member reports.
None for me, sir.
How's the cruise?
It should be fantastic.
Good luck. Enjoy.
He's like, in 20 minutes, it's going to be awesome.
Red eye time.
By the way, for the record, it's 9/11.
I don't think I have anything. Nope.
All right.
Nope, I have nothing.
I
Nothing
don't
that I
think I
didn't
have
already
anything
report.
either. Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be quick. David,
I'm still recuperating.
when are you gonna see us in person?
Well, I'm going to strive for the next one, but remains to be seen.
All right. Good. Keep it up. I have nothing else to add. Wonderful meeting. Appreciate everything. No tentative future agenda items. Just checking.
Not at the moment.
Wow.
The holistic that I asked for.
Yes.
In
Yes.
the
Yes.
weed
Yes.
abatement.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's that. Where did my gavel go? We are adjourned to Tuesday, February 24th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Thanks all.
Awesome.
Take care.